Top 10 Most Haunted Locations of Kentucky. Part 4. Western Kentucky University, WKU, Bowling Green, KY, a campus of shadows. Western Kentucky University, WKU, was founded in 1906 and has stood for over a century, overlooking Bowling Green from its hilltop location. Known for its rich traditions and academic excellence, WKU carries a hidden past, layered with eerie legends and ghostly whispers. The campus, with its historic buildings and underground tunnels, has long been a hotspot for paranormal encounters. Stories of spectral figures, disembodied voices, and unexplainable footsteps echo through its halls, leaving students and staff questioning the unseen forces that lurk in the shadows. The haunting of Van Meter Hall. One of the most haunted locations on campus is Van Meter Hall, a historic auditorium built in 1911. Its grand architecture masks a chilling secret, a tragedy that birthed one of WKU's most infamous ghosts. The legend dates back to the early 20th century, when a student and aspiring actor was rehearsing for a play. During an intense scene, he fell from the catwalk above the stage and plummeted to his death. Since then, eerie occurrences have plagued the hall. Late at night, the sound of footsteps can be heard pacing above the stage, though no one is there. Students have reported seeing a shadowy figure peering from the balcony seats, only for it to vanish when approached. One chilling incident happened to a janitor working the night shift. As he mopped the stage, the overhead lights flickered violently before shutting off completely. In the darkness, he heard a whisper. "The show must go on." Frozen in fear, he turned around, only to see the faint outline of a man standing in the empty auditorium. When the lights flickered back on, the figure had disappeared, leaving only an icy chill in the air. Many students claim that if you sit alone in the hall, you can hear faint applause and distant laughter, as if an unseen audience still lingers, waiting for a performance that will never come. The underground tunnels, a dark passageway. Beneath WKU lies a network of underground tunnels, originally built for maintenance and utility purposes. However, over time, they became a place of mystery and fear. Some say the tunnels are haunted by the spirit of a former professor who disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Those who have dared to explore report hearing whispers, feeling unseen hands brush against them, and even spotting shadowy figures lurking in the dimly lit corridors. One student recounted an encounter where he and his friends ventured into the tunnels at midnight. As they walked deeper, their flashlight flickered and they heard heavy breathing just behind them. When they turned around, no one was there. Suddenly, the sound of running footsteps echoed through the tunnel, followed by a chilling scream. The group fled in terror, swearing never to return. North Rolling Fork River, Bradfordsville, KY, the drowning shadows. The North Rolling Fork River winds through the heart of Bradfordsville, KY, carrying with it the history of a town that has seen its share of tragedy. Once a lifeline for early settlers, the river has long been a place of mystery. Tales of strange lights, eerie whispers, and ghostly apparitions have made it a feared location, especially after dark. The locals say that those who linger near its banks may see shadows moving beneath the water, shadows that do not belong to the living. The legend of the drowned woman, one of the most chilling stories tied to the North Rolling Fork River, is that of Eliza Whitmore, a woman who vanished in the mid-1800s. Eliza was set to marry a wealthy landowner, but on the eve of her wedding, she was found dead in the river. Some say she drowned herself in despair after learning of her fiancé's betrayal. Others believe she was murdered, pushed into the cold, dark waters by jealous hands. For decades, eerie sightings have been reported near the river. Fishermen speak of seeing a woman in a tattered white dress walking along the shore at twilight. When they call out to her, she turns, and her face is nothing but a hollow void. Others claim to hear a woman sobbing, only for the cries to be swallowed by the wind. One particularly terrifying account came from a traveler who stopped near the river to rest. As he set up camp, he noticed a figure standing in the water just beyond the reeds. He called out, but the woman remained still. As he stepped closer, she suddenly rushed toward him, not walking but gliding across the surface. Her mouth stretched wide in a silent scream. The man fled, and when he looked back, she was gone, leaving only the rippling water in her wake. The drowning hands phenomenon. Perhaps the most disturbing aspect of the North Rolling Fork River's hauntings is the legend of the drowning hands. Swimmers and boaters have reported feeling invisible hands grabbing their ankles, pulling them down into the depths. Some have even claimed to see pale, skeletal hands reaching up from the water's surface. A few unlucky souls have gone missing in the river, their bodies never found, leading many to believe that Eliza, or whatever lurks beneath, still seeks revenge. Is the river cursed? Locals avoid the river after nightfall, and some refuse to go near it at all. Whether it's the restless spirit of a betrayed bride, the hands of the drowned seeking company, or something even darker, one thing is certain: the North Rolling Fork River does not let go easily. Meade County High School, Brandenburg, KY. Meade County High School, located in Brandenburg, KY, has been a cornerstone of the community for decades. With thousands of students passing through its halls, the school has seen generations of memories. But beneath the surface of everyday life, a darker story lingers. Students and staff have long whispered about strange occurrences: unexplained footsteps echoing in empty hallways, lockers slamming shut on their own, and the feeling of being watched when no one is there. Some claim the school was built near an old burial site, while others believe a tragedy from the past has left a lingering imprint. One of the most chilling stories comes from the school library. The tale speaks of a young girl, Emily Carter, who allegedly died under mysterious circumstances in the 1970s. Some say she was a student who suffered from bullying and took her own life, while others claim she vanished without a trace, her disappearance never solved. Whatever the truth, students and teachers alike have reported eerie encounters. Late at night, when the library is empty, the sound of soft crying can sometimes be heard. Books fall off the shelves without explanation, and on rare occasions, students claim to have seen a pale figure in a school uniform standing between the rows of books. When they call out, she disappears into thin air. One janitor working the night shift reported locking up the library only to return moments later and find every single chair pulled away from the tables. The air was ice cold, and as he turned to leave, he heard a whisper right behind him. "Help me." The most terrifying entity at Meade County High is known simply as the Shadow. This figure has been seen moving through the halls late at night, a tall, dark silhouette with no discernible features. Some students who stayed late for after-school activities have reported seeing it standing at the end of the hallway, watching silently. When they blink or turn away, it vanishes. One former teacher recalled an encounter in which she stayed late grading papers. As she walked toward the exit, she saw the figure standing near the lockers. Thinking it was a student, she called out, but the shadow moved toward her without making a sound. Frozen in terror, she turned and sprinted out of the building. When she glanced back, the figure was standing inside the locked doors, staring at her through the glass. There is an old maintenance basement beneath the school that few people enter. Rumors suggest it was once used as a bomb shelter or storage space, but something about it feels deeply wrong. Those who have dared to go down there report hearing scratching sounds from the walls, as if something is trapped inside. One student who snuck in on a dare claimed he heard a voice whisper directly into his ear, "Go back up before it's too late." The next day, he came to school with deep scratches along his arms, scratches he swore appeared out of nowhere. The haunting of Salisville, KY. Salisville, a quiet town nestled in the rugged hills of Breathitt County, Kentucky, carries a long history of hardship, mystery, and bloodshed. Once a battleground for feuding families and the site of tragic deaths, the town has become a hotspot for eerie occurrences. Many believe the land itself is cursed, whispering with the voices of those who met untimely ends. Strange lights appear in the woods at night, ghostly figures wander the back roads, and the deep, winding rivers seem to claim more lives than they should. Decades ago, an old hermit named Ezekiel Crowder lived deep in the woods outside Salisville. He was known for practicing strange rituals, speaking to unseen forces, and carving symbols into trees that no one could understand. The townspeople feared him, calling him the Hollow Man, because his eyes seemed empty, devoid of life. One winter, after a particularly brutal storm, Ezekiel's cabin burned to the ground. When searchers combed through the ashes, they found something terrifying. His body was gone, but his shadow was burned into the ground. From that moment on, strange things began to happen in Salisville. People reported seeing a tall, gaunt figure standing at the edge of their fields at dusk. He had no face, just darkness where his eyes should have been. Dogs howled when he approached, and those who locked eyes with him suffered terrible nightmares of being buried alive. Some even went missing, their bodies never found, as if the earth itself had swallowed them whole. Another haunting mystery of Salisville lies along Old Route 30, a winding road that cuts through the hills. For years, people traveling this stretch have disappeared without a trace. Cars are found abandoned, their engines still running, but no sign of the driver or passengers. The last known sighting of many of these missing people, a shadowy figure standing in the middle of the road, waiting. A trucker passing through in the 1990s swore he saw something unnatural. As he drove near an old bridge, he spotted a man walking along the side of the road. Thinking he needed help, the trucker slowed down. But when his headlights hit the man, his body cast no shadow. Terrified, the driver sped away, only to see the same figure standing farther up the road, this time grinning. The trucker never spoke of what happened next, but when he arrived at the next town, he was shaking so badly that he quit his job and refused to ever drive through Breathitt County again. Many believe Salisville's hauntings stem from an ancient curse placed on the land by its earliest inhabitants. Native American legends warn of spirits that hunger for the souls of the living, and settlers who disturbed their burial sites often met gruesome fates. The Hollow Man, the vanishing travelers, and the eerie voices in the woods may all be connected, a reminder that some places were never meant for the living. The haunted town of Dexter, KY. Dexter, a small rural town in Callaway County, Kentucky, may seem peaceful by day, but locals know that once the sun sets, the land tells a darker tale. The town has a long history of mysterious disappearances, ghostly sightings, and chilling screams that echo through the nearby woods at night. Some believe Dexter was built over cursed land, while others claim a forgotten tragedy has left spirits restless. Whatever the truth, one legend sends fear through anyone who dares to stay after dark. The story of the Screaming Woods. The legend of the lost family. In the late 1800s, a small homestead sat deep in the woods just outside Dexter. The family that lived there, a husband, wife, and their 2 young children, were known to keep to themselves. One winter, a massive snowstorm cut them off from the rest of the town. When the storm finally passed, a search party went to check on them. What they found became one of Dexter's most terrifying mysteries. The house was empty, but not abandoned. The fire was still burning, food was set on the table, and a doll lay in the middle of the floor as if just dropped. There were no signs of struggle, no blood, no footprints in the snow leading away from the house. It was as if the family had simply vanished into thin air. For years after, townspeople heard horrifying screams coming from the woods. Some claimed to see shadows darting between the trees. Hunters who wandered too deep would feel something cold brush against them, like invisible hands reaching out. Those who ignored the warnings and entered the woods at night would often return, shaken and pale, swearing they had seen the missing family standing in the darkness, their mouths open wide, but no sound coming out. The Silent Man of Dexter Road. Another chilling tale from Dexter is that of the Silent Man, a ghostly figure seen walking along the back roads late at night. Travelers describe a tall man dressed in old-fashioned clothes, his hat pulled low over his face. He never speaks, never waves, and never changes his slow, deliberate pace. One local teenager, driving home alone, claimed she saw the man walking on the side of the road. Feeling uneasy, she sped up, but when she glanced in her rearview mirror, he was sitting in her back seat. She slammed on the brakes and jumped out of the car, but when she looked inside, the man was gone. Only a faint, icy handprint remained on the glass. The cursed land of Dexter, a warning to strangers. Many believe Dexter's hauntings stem from a long-forgotten tragedy, possibly tied to old Native American legends or early settlers who vanished without a trace. Whatever the source, the town holds an unsettling truth. Once you hear the screams in the woods or glimpse the silent man, he never truly leaves you. Those who visit Dexter at night often say the same thing. I left that place, but something from there followed me home. The haunting of Campbellsville University. Nestled in the heart of Campbellsville, Kentucky, Campbellsville University is known for its deep-rooted history, academic excellence, and picturesque campus. But beneath its peaceful exterior, students and faculty whisper about something darker. A history of ghostly encounters that refuse to be forgotten. From eerie figures seen roaming the halls to doors slamming shut without reason, the university has long been rumored to be haunted. Some say it's due to the land's past, once home to Civil War skirmishes, while others claim a restless spirit still walks among the students. The girl in the dormitory. One of the most chilling tales comes from the residence halls, where students have reported seeing a young woman in a long, old-fashioned dress standing at the foot of their beds at night. Legend says she was once a student who died tragically in her room. Some say she fell from a window. Others claim she was found in her bed, having passed away under mysterious circumstances. Regardless of the details, her presence is undeniable. Students have woken up to find their furniture moved overnight, their blankets yanked off in the middle of their sleep, and a soft whisper in their ears saying, "Don't go." One resident assistant reported hearing footsteps pacing outside her room at 3 a.m. When she looked out, the hallway was empty, but the footsteps continued right past her door. The haunted chapel, the shadow in the balcony. The university's chapel is a place of worship and reflection, but late at night, something unsettling lingers. Several students and faculty members have reported seeing a dark figure standing in the balcony, watching silently. Some believe it's the spirit of an old preacher who once delivered sermons there, but others think it's something far more sinister. A former professor recalled locking up the chapel one evening when he saw a shadow move across the altar. Thinking it was a student, he called out, but the air turned ice cold, and the figure vanished before his eyes. The library's vanishing books. The university library holds countless stories, but some books seem to move on their own. Librarians have repeatedly found books scattered on the floor, often in the same eerie pattern. One security guard swears he saw a book float off the shelf and drop as if pulled by an invisible hand. One student studying alone late at night claimed she felt a cold breath on her neck and heard a whisper, "Turn the page." When she looked around, she was completely alone. A warning to students. The stories of Campbellsville University's hauntings continue to grow with each passing year. Some believe the spirits are simply former students who never left, while others think something much darker lurks in the shadows. But one thing is certain. Once you've seen the ghosts of Campbellsville University, you'll never feel alone again. The haunting of Heaston House. The Heaston House in Campbellsville, Kentucky, is one of the oldest surviving homes in the region. Built in 1823 by John Heaston, a German immigrant, the house is a stunning example of frontier architecture, complete with thick stone walls and hand-carved wooden beams. It has stood the test of time, witnessing the Civil War, family tragedies, and generations of change. But locals say the past never left. The Heaston House isn't just a historic landmark. It's a place where ghostly figures roam, whispers fill empty rooms, and objects move on their own. Those who dare to visit say the house holds a spirit that refuses to be forgotten. The woman in the window. The most famous ghost of the Heaston House is said to be a woman in a white dress who appears in the upstairs window. Some believe she was a member of the Heaston family who died in the home, while others think she's the restless spirit of a Civil War nurse who once cared for wounded soldiers inside the house. Visitors walking by at night often glance up, only to see a pale figure staring down at them from the window. But when they enter the house, the upstairs room is always empty. One local historian who spent the night in the house reported waking up to the sound of soft crying coming from the hallway. When he opened his door, the sound stopped, but the air was ice cold. The mysterious locked door. There is one door in the Heaston House that never stays shut. Even when locked, it creaks open on its own, as if something unseen is pushing it. One visitor decided to test the legend and lock the door before leaving for the night. The next morning, it was wide open. Some say it's just an old house settling. Others believe it's the spirit of someone who was trapped in that room long ago. Someone who still wants to escape. The phantom footsteps. Many visitors have reported hearing footsteps on the staircase when no one else is inside. During a late-night tour, a group of paranormal investigators heard heavy boots moving up and down the stairs. They checked every room, but no one was there. One investigator set up a recorder overnight, and when he played back the audio the next day, he heard something chilling, a deep voice whispering his name. A house that won't let go. The Heaston House may be a piece of history, but for those who have experienced its hauntings, it is a doorway to the past that never fully closed. Whether it's the woman in the window, the footsteps in the night, or the door that refuses to stay shut, one thing is clear. Something still lingers in the Heaston House, waiting. The haunting of Taylor County. Taylor County, founded in 1848, is a region rich in history, from the days of early settlers to the brutal conflicts of the Civil War. Over the years, it has been home to ghostly legends, strange disappearances, and chilling encounters that have left locals whispering about things that cannot be explained. From abandoned homes where phantom footsteps are heard to backroads where shadow figures appear and vanish, Taylor County holds a reputation as one of Kentucky's most haunted areas. But among all the eerie tales, two stand out: the legend of the crying woman of Tebbs Bend and the haunted bridge of Spurlington. The crying woman of Tebbs Bend. Tebbs Bend, a historic battlefield in Taylor County, was the site of a bloody Civil War skirmish on July 4th, 1863. The land, once soaked in blood, is now said to be haunted by a weeping woman in white, searching for a lost soldier who never returned. Locals say that on misty nights, if you walk through the battlefield alone, you may hear soft sobbing carried by the wind. Some claim to have seen a ghostly woman kneeling near the riverbank, clutching something unseen in her hands. One local historian investigating the site at night captured a chilling EVP recording of a faint voice whispering, "He promised, but he never came back." The woman's identity remains unknown, but those who have encountered her say her sorrow is something you can feel in your bones. The haunted bridge of Spurlington. Just outside Campbellsville, the Spurlington Tunnel, an old railroad tunnel hidden deep in the woods, has been the site of terrifying encounters. According to legend, a man was murdered near the bridge, his body dumped onto the tracks. Ever since, strange lights, disembodied whispers, and shadowy figures have been seen near the tunnel at night. One group of teenagers exploring the tunnel claimed their flashlights flickered and died all at once, plunging them into total darkness. Suddenly, they heard heavy breathing behind them, but when they turned around, no one was there. Drivers passing by late at night report seeing a figure standing near the entrance of the tunnel, but when they slow down for a closer look, he disappears. A county that never sleeps. Taylor County may seem peaceful by day, but once night falls, its ghosts wake up. Whether it's the grieving woman of Tebbs Bend or the lurking spirit near the Spurlington Tunnel, those who visit these haunted locations leave with one chilling thought. The haunting of Jim Beam Distillery. Nestled in Claremont, Kentucky, the Jim Beam Distillery has stood for over 2 centuries, producing some of the world's finest bourbon. Founded in 1795, the distillery survived prohibition, fires, and economic downturns, cementing its place as an American icon. But while the whiskey here flows smoothly, there are whispers that some spirits refuse to leave. Not the kind bottled in barrels, but the kind that linger in the shadows. Distillery workers and visitors have reported phantom footsteps, ghostly apparitions, and strange whispers in the aging warehouses. Some believe these spirits belong to the Beam family themselves, still watching over their legacy. Others suspect that the long history of laborers and tragic accidents have left behind restless souls. The ghost of Jacob Beam. Jacob Beam, the founder of the Bourbon Empire, passed away in 1834, but many say his presence never left the distillery. Workers have seen a shadowy figure near the old barrel house, where he once oversaw production. One night, a security guard making his rounds heard the distinct sound of boots on the wooden floors. Thinking someone had broken in, he followed the noise, only to find the room empty. But just as he turned to leave, he heard a voice whisper in his ear, "Watch the barrels!" Shaken, he quit his job the next day. The Barrel House Shadows. The distillery's barrel-aging warehouses, where bourbon is stored for years in wooden casks, are particularly eerie at night. Employees have reported seeing figures moving between the racks, only to find no one there. One worker recalled stacking barrels alone when he suddenly felt someone standing behind him. He turned around to see a dark figure in old-fashioned clothing, watching silently. In a blink, it was gone, but the barrel beside him rolled off the rack by itself. Visitors on nighttime tours have also reported cold spots and a strong feeling of being watched, especially near the oldest warehouse, where bourbon has aged for over a century. The mysterious smell of tobacco. Another common phenomenon at Jim Beam Distillery is the sudden, unexplained smell of pipe tobacco in areas where smoking is strictly prohibited. Distillery workers believe this is the spirit of James B. Beam, the man who rebuilt the company after Prohibition. He was known for his love of bourbon and a good smoke, and some say he still lingers, ensuring his family's name is upheld. One tour guide claimed that during a private tour, a guest mentioned smelling fresh tobacco smoke. The guide laughed, saying no one had smoked there in decades, only to suddenly smell it himself moments later. Jim Beam Distillery isn't just home to world-class bourbon, it's also home to ghosts who refuse to be forgotten. Whether it's Jacob Beam's whispers, shadowy figures in the barrel house, or the lingering scent of pipe smoke, visitors leave with an eerie feeling that the past is still very much alive. The haunting of Old Hickman County Elementary School. In the small town of Clinton, Kentucky, the Old Hickman County Elementary School stands as a decaying relic of the past. Built in the early 1900s, this once thriving school saw generations of children walk its halls. But time hasn't been kind to it. After shutting its doors decades ago, the building has fallen into ruin, its walls covered in peeling paint, its windows shattered, and its classrooms filled with silence. Yet for those brave enough to enter, that silence doesn't last long. Locals say the school is far from empty. Strange lights flicker in the abandoned classrooms, ghostly laughter echoes in the hallways, and some claim they've even seen small shadowy figures darting through the corridors, as if the children who once studied here never truly left. The Laughing Children, one of the most chilling reports from those who have explored the school at night, is the sound of childlike giggles echoing through the empty halls. A group of paranormal investigators once set up recorders in the old gymnasium. When they played back the audio, they heard the faint sound of a child whispering, "Come play with us." But when they returned to that same spot, the temperature dropped instantly, and one investigator swore he felt a small hand grip his own, ice cold and unseen. The vanishing teacher. Several witnesses claim to have seen a ghostly woman in a long dress walking through the hallways. Some believe she was a former teacher who loved her students so much that she never left, even after death. A former janitor, one of the last people to work in the building before it shut down, once told a chilling story. "I was locking up for the night when I saw a woman in one of the classrooms, standing by the old chalkboard. She had her back to me and I assumed she was lost. I called out, but she didn't respond. When I stepped inside, the room went ice cold, and she vanished right in front of me." The unfinished test. One of the strangest legends about the school is that of the unfinished test. Visitors claim that if you leave a blank sheet of paper and a pencil on one of the old desks overnight, you will return to find the paper filled with childlike scribbles or even complete answers to a test. One local skeptic decided to test the theory and left a math worksheet on a desk. The next morning, he returned to find several answers written in faded pencil, in handwriting far too small to belong to an adult. A school that still teaches fear. Though the old Hickman County Elementary School has been abandoned for years, something still lingers within its crumbling walls. Some believe the spirits are harmless, the echoes of children long gone, still playing in the afterlife. Others aren't so sure. One thing is certain. If you step inside after dark, you may find that the past isn't as distant as you think, and you might not be alone.